Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the LGB Alliance USA podcast. And we are here with a very special guest. She's actually a volunteer with our organization. And she recently spoke on the Tacoma leg of Kelly J. Keen's Standing for Women tour. She's going by a pseudonym, Goth Grrl, because that's the pseudonym that sort of the comment section of YouTube gave her when they were watching the stream of her speech. So we're very happy to have her here to talk about what happened at Tacoma. So Goth Grrl, I'll just hand it off to you. Maybe begin by talking about maybe what you feel comfortable sharing about yourself and why you got involved in this issue.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for having me and helping me spread my voice. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I mean, my speech kind of covered why I got involved in everything. I remember when Kelly J, announced her tour, we were all kind of like, there were a number of us saying, add Seattle, because we're woke as fuck here. And so we were trying to get her at it, and she then casually just slipped it in when she was going through her itinerary one day, and we broke out in cheers in the comments. And so it was like I knew exactly what I wanted to say. I had it planned out in my head. It was perfect. And then it's like 2.5 weeks out or whatever, so of course as more time goes out, I'm kind of like thinking about there's more and more and more. And then I joined Twitter, and you see more and more and more stuff. And like there's so much to talk about in regards to all of this. So it was kind of a I had a lot of bullet points on my draft for my speech, and just kind of cut things out as I went down, and tried to narrow it down to under 5 minutes. But yeah, I mean, my main reasons for doing it are being disabled and bisexual and a woman. So yeah.
I wonder if you could tell us about what the experience was like of first of all, being second speaker up, which I think was really cool, but also just the building ambiance, like, so your general experience of being a speaker there, and what it was like with the crowd, especially as it began to amass. More and more people, more and more students were surrounding you all.
Yes. So it was I knew I wanted to go. Well, I wanted to go first, which I'm really glad I didn't, because like, I mean, you see in the video, where the guy comes out to go for Lear, and she just gracefully like steps to the side while Amy comes flying through, and then Lear just comes right back and doesn't miss a beat at all. And I absolutely would have jumped right forward into all of the fucking equipment. I know I would have. It would have been graceful, but it would have been awful. So I ended up going second, but I wanted to go early because I knew it was going to be bad, and I knew something would happen, and so we'd probably not be able to get through everyone, and I needed to speak, and for myself and for Seattle, I guess, in a way. And so that was cool. And for me personally, it was really weird because I suffer from some severe debilitating anxiety, and being there, I wasn't afraid at all, and I had no anxiety, and it was the first time in my life I think I've ever felt that. I ended up busing down just for travel, saving money and all that. And so I missed my stop, and then I had to take another bus back. So I got there kind of late, or later than I planned, so about 11:40ish. And there's some women there, and so I just Lear was there, and I introduced myself to her, and a few other women. And up top there's some of the like Antifa guys, all in black and with the balaclavas, and there was like, I think just like 2 or 3. And then some students came out and had signs, and wasn't scary or anything like that. It was, they've got a right to protest and have their voice too, and that's fine. And Kelly J gets there, and that's when people started coming out, definitely, after she arrived. And and definitely was not just students. There was largely students, but there was grown ass men, and I also want to make the point that, they may be students or under the age of 18, but, to a bunch of 5, 6 and below women, 16 or 17-year-old male is still quite the opponent, so it is intimidating, looking back on it, as, they kind of pressed in. It was more, I was just more aware, I guess, of, my surroundings, my back, because it was kind of people were moving around, so my back was like open and then closed. I wanted to make sure no one was there, and I was by the wooden stakes that were there, and I, didn't want anyone to get those, obviously. I mean, location wise, I did really have an issue with her getting so much hate with it location wise, because here around here, especially in Seattle, and like our schools are kind of spread out through multiple like buildings around the city, and I'm not a native to Tacoma, but that's how I was told it was there as well. And the other issue is you have to be able to gather somewhere that's big enough for everyone to speak, and then there's going to be protesters, and so you need room and an exit strategy and all that stuff. And so you're going to end up in a town square, plaza, or center or something like that. And this one unfortunately happened to be near high school.
So
How it was, but
for those who don't know, where was this location? Like, where were you guys at? And
oh my god, I don't remember what it's called. It was like Tolson Plaza in Tacoma, Washington. So it was in
was it
downtown
on like
Tacoma.
Was it on like city grounds, or was it on a school grounds, or?
It was on it's city grounds. Yeah.
Okay.
She had a permit.
Okay.
She had a permit. We had a right to be there. The police knew we were going to be there. And
Was there a police presence? I didn't see any police.
No, the police were called 23 times. And we started when they kind of came, because it was you can see in some of the videos how it's like sort of like an atrium where there's about 15 stairs coming down, and then down to the plaza. And so the kids started up top and they kind of spread on the stairs, and you can definitely throughout it you could see it. I mean, there's Antifa men that had the like earphones in, and like the motorcycle gloves and shit like that, and they were like they would move down, and then the students would follow them down. And so it's you can absolutely see those tactics of using like children as a shield in a way. Yes, so we first called the police when they kind of came down, and they were all coming down the stairs, and they were pressing in fairly close and spreading around us, because we didn't want them to encircle us. So Kelly J came over and asked me or the woman next to me to call the police, because it's advancing, obviously. And that's another reason I was comfortable speaking, is because I know that Kelly J is for safety. She's non-violence, and it's about using our voices, and that is what I'm for as well. And so police were called 23 times at least that we know of. And they did not arrive until I was there, until the very last woman came out. We were making sure everyone got out okay. And when we drove out, there was 2 or 3 police cars, and April was talking to them to make the record of what happened. And that's the only police presence that there was completely after the fact. Well, after the fact, I mean, the kids were down at the hill, they were still standing there, but it was like, of course, they're not going to come up when there's police cars. They can actually see and process, oh, there would be a consequence to my actions if I did this. So the kids were down at the bottom of the hill and stayed there. And then they did not helpfully guide us out, as they're saying on Twitter. That is definitely not what happened.
So
that is.
Excuse this ignorant question.
No.
I come from a small town. I'm not used to like big cities. Is this typical for big cities and metropolitan areas for the police to just not show up to stuff unless it's like super serious or something?
That, I mean, I'm kind of the same, honestly. This is my first protest, my first time public speaking. So was just new to all of this. And but for my friends that have had experiences and people I know and people in Tacoma that were saying the same thing, they've, as we were walking up, women were saying, I just had my house broken into and no police, bothered to show up so we could even have a report written. So it does sound like, this is the norm for around Oregon, Seattle.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's why I want to keep speaking out about this, and why I'm very glad you guys had me on, because as it's progressing, of course people are going to be talking about the new stops and what's that's natural, but I don't want this to become old news. This should not become old news, because this is our reality as women living in Tacoma or the Pacific Northwest. This is what happens when we speak out. Like, there are women who have mentioned on Twitter that they have their adult human female shirt, but they are terrified to wear it out. And you get kicked out of restaurants, you will get followed on the streets, shit like that. So it's like, I mean, we needed this kick in the ass of this tour with Kelly J's face on it. Because women have been speaking. I want to make that clear. Women have been getting together and speaking. Just like always, rad femmes and lesbians have been doing stuff, just been completely ignored. But because Kelly J is so well known and so well hated, that is why I believe we had the turnout that we did, and the reaction that we did, and that we're having, like we had in Chicago today too.
Was there any press there at all?
There were photos taken, so I'm assuming, because I was like, some of them were, and I was walking out, and I know like Kelly J has her filmographer there for the documentary, and so he was there, and but I don't feel like any real press showed up until after the fact.
So not like a news channel, a local news channel, or
oh god, no, nothing like that. No.
You had mentioned that the April was talking to the police after, but could you talk about the incident of why she needed to talk to the police in particular?
Yes. So we were leaving, and so we were walking up the hill, but we wanted to make sure everyone was getting out okay. So we were staying far enough away from the protesters that we were safe, but stopping and watching and making sure. And so we saw April coming up the hill, and she had a couple women beside her, Lear and another woman I didn't know, and she was just shaking, and her hand was held below her, and she came up. And so what happened was she ended up getting circled in the middle of the protest, which is what these people do. They will pick one of you off if there's a straggler, which is why you always leave with someone, always. And so she got circled, and she was had her phone filming everything that was happening. And so one of the students, a boy, grabbed her hand or grabbed her phone, and she was trying to grab her phone back, so she reached up to grab her phone, and he grabbed her hand, her fingers, and just twisted them and broke two of her fingers, and just crushed them in his hand. Like, again, and this is why I hate people are saying like, oh, they're kids, they're children. It's like, they may be, but they have the advantage. Like, a woman can't fucking do that to a man. We can't even do that to another woman. So April gave up the hill. So I gave her a couple Tylenol, made sure she would tell the emergency people that when she got to the hospital. So we are just making sure. She said she got everything on film. It was also a brand new phone, which is enraging, because the fucking kid should have to pay for the phone. Oh, that was the other thing. He also got the phone and then threw it down and smashed it on the ground, just totally crushing it. So she lost her phone. She got her hand broken. She already had injuries in her hips, and she's a dance teacher. She's a dancer. And so she's off teaching dance, and her hips have gotten injuries from this or acted up.
This young man, or these kids, were these from a school next? You said there's a school nearby. Is that where they came from?
There was a high school that I believe was a building above us, but I'm not 100% sure. And then about 3 or 4 blocks away, or 3 blocks away, there was a school of the arts, which I believe is a college school. So I walked by that and was kind of like, oh, okay, this will be an interesting, but again, that's, how it is. And it's like, that's another thing. It's like, that's one of the things I loved about living here was that, it is leftist and we value education, which has unfortunately backfired, but so we have a lot of schools. We have schools everywhere, and that's something a lot of people don't realize. So there was kids from both, I believe, that were there.
And also, you mentioned before, or hinted before, that there were also Antifa there. Were they separate from the schools?
I mean, no one knows, of course, but they were definitely well, there's been talk on Twitter. I know Xlantics covered some of it in her Substack, but it does seem like they were in contact with some of the kids, but there's no confirmation of that. I want to make that clear. I have no proof of that, but if they didn't have confirmation, they were definitely encouraging the kids to step forward to be the first ones to attack, which you can see in the video where, oh my god, I can't remember her name, the woman who pepper sprayed. That's what happened was they let the kid basically egg her on, or not egg her on, the kid was standing there and she was holding up her sign, and then he was just letting out a glom of spit to go directly into her face. And this kid is over 18, he said afterwards. And she put up her sign to shove in his face, and then she pulled out her pepper spray because he came back for her. And so she pulled out her pepper spray and sprayed him, and then the Antifa guy just comes right, like swoops in and just sprays her in the face, and then walks away after she sprays him. And so they were letting the kids kind of be their shield, basically, and antagonize everyone. And so then they would like step in and look like they were protecting the children when they were actually inciting violence. So, which is, their tactic. But so yeah, no proof, but it's not really a far stretch, I don't think.
I want to speak to what you mentioned about the strength of these young teen males.
Yes.
When that one child rushed the mic at Lear, and Amy had to come in. So she was coming with her full force to push this kid back. It took a guy coming in as well. It took 2 adult people to push this kid, and he was still pushing back against them to scream things into the mic. So the notion that these are just kids, it's not a big deal. Exactly. It just really speaks, it proves the point of what we say is that about teen males having so much more strength over women and girls.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a difference or something.
Right. Do you know if any charges were filed, or if they were able to?
Yes. So she was able to well, I don't know about charges, but they arrested one of the guys, the guy who broke her hand, and he was charged with, I believe, malicious mischief and assault. And then she spoke at the school board the next day straight out of a doctor's appointment, and this is all in live stream, so I'm comfortable with sharing it. She said she wasn't entirely sure she wanted to press charges, because when they came out of the school board meeting, they were followed by grown-ass men. They were followed out, and they took photos of their license plate, and it's like they like, April lives there. This is her home, and like, she's scared to live there now. It's like they know her face. All of these kids know her face, and everyone can say, oh, it's your fault for being there in the first place, but it's like, well, our rights are being taken away, and we can't just sit on our asses and do that, like sit back and let that happen.
Yeah, these are fear tactics that are being deployed methodically, and it's important for people who can have a voice and use their voice to fight back and to speak up and to be heard. And it's just in that clip, Kelly Jean asked the principal why he couldn't get his kids under control, why he couldn't get, and the principal said they're learning. This isn't a learning opportunity for them, and this is public demonstration. And what you just said is that your rights are being trampled, and you went there to speak. It should be a possibility in this country in particular, where we value the First Amendment right to free speech, to be able to speak freely without being assaulted by teenage males and dudes in paramilitary gear egging them
Mhm.
on and using them as
Yeah.
human shields. It's just remarkable that this is where we've arrived.
Yeah.
It was brought up in some of the YouTube commentary I heard on the event that there actually were some students there who were interested in what you had to say.
Oh,
and
yes.
were interested. Okay, so that was
Yeah,
that true?
so I do, yes, definitely want to give them credit. There was a handful, and by handful I mean about 5 or 6 out of 150 or 200 that it ended up being. So you know, it's not the majority, you can tell, but to give them credit, you know, they came up in the very beginning. And you know, one of them had a sign that said "Protect my trans siblings." So you know, of course, it's someone who's concerned about their loved one, and but you know, they were, you know, even if they aren't going to change their mind, they were still interested in having a discussion, and those were the only kids, but that was in the very beginning. And you know, they were quickly shoved out of the way by the angry people. But yeah, and then there was a couple guys I heard that some of the women talked to, and then like I noticed that the one who was holding the trans sibling sign ended up talking to most of the guys. And you know, now I don't know why the guys were there, because most of them didn't get to speak, but I do know that a lot of men who show up tend to be because of their daughters. And so, you know, I was just wondering if they're, you know, kind of like a similar family kind of situation of having concern about that. But just it was just good to see that, you know, that there were at least 5 kids, you know, who were willing to talk to us and have a discussion. And then in the photo, there's one kid who's just kind of, I'm not sure if he's interested in journalism, but he just kind of was there. And he would just kind of follow the group, and like he's like front and center on one of the photos on that New Tribune article, but he was one of the like most kind or mellow kids that was there. And it was just kind of talking to everyone. And yeah, so there definitely were kids there that were interested, but it was not as the principal said. And he also told us that they would be going back in for their lunch hour at first this time and then this time, and then he asked us to shut down so that the kids could go back to school. So we were keeping the kids from school, we were pepper spraying the kids, we were, you know, assaulting the kids in their safe space, because that's what they claim, that this is their safe space because they come to eat lunch here. But it's like, we may come to eat lunch here, but it is a public square for people to speak on. Like, that's what public squares are kind of there for.
Yeah, it's striking to me that the public square and the school would have a shared space. Like, that to me is a really unsafe situation in terms of being able to manage your students if they have such open access, because it looked like you were not far off of a main roadway. And
yeah, we were right there.
Yeah, so like, how was that safe for the students to just meander over and have lunch in a public square? Like, what is that? I'm in Florida. That would never have happened in my school here. Not at all.
Yeah. It would be one thing I could understand if you're standing there in horror seeing your students, 200 of your students, you know, doing this, and you're like, what the hell do I do? Because that would be kind of understandable, you know, but you could still, like, I don't know, call the police or their parents or have some sort of consequence set up. But it was not that at all. He was very much just had his stoic face on, and he was not going to do anything. And we were the problem. That was it.
You know, this talking about teaching kids, like, this is when you do this. This is when, as the principal, as the adult, as the person, you go there and you show by example that you're going to be peacefully there, you're going to listen, and you're going to respect and maybe have a conversation, and you encourage your kids to do the same. It's just very simple to go up to your kids and be like, in this country, we value freedom of speech. So we're all going to sit here and we're going to listen. We don't have to agree. And you know what? We can talk about it when we get back, or maybe we can have a conversation. But no, none of that happened. And that's to me as a lifelong, like, voting Democrat and progressive, hurts my soul so much I can't even tell you.
Yes,
what the hell has happened to us?
Yes,
you know,
that is it. That's, I mean, yeah, and again, I want to say, I mean, he came out well after the fact when it was already an issue. We were being pressed in upon. I mean, the whole time I was there, I was, you know, 2 feet away from the speakers and I could barely hear them. And like the kids were just surrounding us and they were pressed in the whole time. And when Kelly J shut down, you can't see it, you know, because it's on the live stream, but they were right behind the camera. They were, I mean, we had women that were linked arms and holding the tripod for the camera to keep it upright and to keep the kids from stealing our equipment and crushing our equipment. And I mean, thank you to those amazing women, because that was like, I mean, that was happening when I was speaking, like, you know, they're already there, like had to be there pressing back. And so it was, you know, by the time he came out, it was very well after the fact, out of control. And I think he knows that, you know, I think he waited because he just didn't want to deal with it, which is just shameful, absolute shame.
I noticed that one woman had gathered up all of the posts that were in the ground.
Yes.
And I saw that and I just had like such a sense of relief, because I saw the pan out and I saw them out there and I was like, these are weapons. And the foresight to go and gather all of that up and to bring it to a more secure location behind the mic, that was just a really genius move, I think.
Yeah, that was scary. I'm not entirely sure. I think they were just hoping to hold up the signs, but those spooked me a bit when I saw them. And so, yeah, to get all those, get them all together. And some of the kids were actually trying to pick them up and use them against us. And so we got them back, and then they were put like right next to me behind the mic. And so it was me and another couple women that were guarding them. And yeah, so it was, I mean, it's tough. Like I talked to another woman that was there that I was talking to, and I've talked to her after the fact, and she said, like, she kind of made a snarky remark to one of the kids after or when she was going away, because he said something about like the dress or about how like she just doesn't understand because she's older, and she like showed him her like black painted nails and was like, things haven't changed that much, and just kind of made a snarky remark. And she said, well, I kind of wish I had tried to engage. And it's like, well, I mean, when it gets to that point, they're just too far gone. I mean, you need to just let them experience whatever they're going to experience and do whatever you can, you know, like coming out and speaking. But, you know, unless the kid is actually showing an open mind to some degree, there's just, you're talking to a wall and you're wasting, you know, your energy. So
I think Carol's point is really important about this being a teachable moment for the principal. And them there's a lot of things he could have done differently and better, but the whole point of being in a public space that's adjacent to multiple schools and not having this robust notion of being able to have discourse with each other. The whole point was just to shout you down, intimidate you, and force you to leave and shut up. And that is not that's not democracy in action. It's not. It doesn't speak to intelligence. It speaks to a very aggressive, I don't know, it makes me feel real bad. Like Carol said, I don't understand how there's no gray area that's possible, and that we can't have debate on campuses, college, and other. What are the kids learning if there's one viewpoint and that's it and nothing else? You have to hold fast to that. It's not productive.
Yeah.
So I was curious real fast. You mentioned before that, and I saw in the video too, or in the live feed, that there were some guys there, mostly older guys. And do you know, were they there with like wives or daughters or anything, or on their own, or what was the deal?
Idea for certain. No? I fairly certain, or I feel like one of them was there as a husband, but I'm not certain, because you know, we didn't really get to talk. There was no afterwards, you know, because we got shut down. So
you know, I feel like it should be something that I think that the men who value their wives and their daughters and their family and their citizens, they should turn out to these, and they should, unfortunately, if you have a bunch of young angry men, they need older men there to kind of like
show them.
They're just, that is the way it works, you know. And I really would like to see, you know, men show up and be what they claim to be in these situations.
Yes, exactly.
I will say
Exactly.
I did see while it was devolving into chaos, there was a man that took the mic and started to read his speech, or he read someone else's
Yes,
speech.
he did
So
try.
he tried his best. And that was it was good to see some male support there as
Yeah.
well. But it is women's, so
Well,
speaker
yeah, but
for-
what
speaker for women.
he did that because us women had to stop speaking because this Kelly J said it was let women speak, not let women go hoarse. And we were having to yell and scream to be heard of these people. Because like I said, they were a foot behind the camera, a foot and a half behind the camera. So, people couldn't hear. And again, I was right next to him and I couldn't hear. And so she said, we're going to wait until these kids go back to, a half an hour until these kids go back to school, and then we'll start up again. And that obviously didn't happen. It just got worse and worse. But that is why the man then kind of took in, because he had, men's voices carry better. And so he ended up, but partially to protect the mic, because he saw, kids going for it, he took the mic and then just started his speech. And so I do commend him for that. I think that was perfect. It was a way of supporting women, even if it didn't look like it on the live feed, maybe.
So it did to me. Like I totally read what he was doing. It's good to see. It was good to see that the gentleman jump in with Amy also to push that kid back, because obviously this very strong teenage boy
yes
was too much for even two adults to get out of there. So you said that there's additional events coming up. What's up next?
I'm not saying anything about anything other than we're still here. I mean, that's kind of it leaves a little sour taste in your mouth, because of course these kids are gonna get off on this and feel like it's a win because they pushed us out. But we were laughing about it a bit afterwards, because one of their chants was, go home, and Turks go home and all that shit. And it's like, this is our home. We live here. Like, and you sure shit didn't change our mind by throwing shit at us, throwing garbage on us, spitting on us, pepper spraying us, yelling in our ears, shoving us, and treating us like absolute trash, So of course we're still here. So that's again why I want to say, don't forget about us. We're here.
Do you have any suggestions or advice for people who might be interested in going to a similar sort of rally in the future?
Yeah, Known Heretic Amy was talking about that today on her channel. A lot of tactics, things like using banners as barriers, and always having an exit, and always leaving with someone, and just never being alone. And I mean, and at this point, come with your speech written, because there's so much shit going on that your mind is just like in shock, basically. So having a paper to read off of really helps. It's tough because it's like, it is scary, and you don't want to get hurt, of course. Nobody does. But like, look what's happening, we have to speak up. We can't just, if we want to live here and be ourselves, we have to make some sort of change. And I think speaking is the best way to do that. Yeah. And of course, film everything, the usual. Obviously that's helped us immensely in the all of this with the Tacoma event. So I was gonna say, it's my first event, so like I said, I'm not the expert to ask.
Well, I was just gonna say that I was watching it, some of these events, including the Tacoma leg live streamed, and it was really, on one hand it was like, oh, this tension, but in the live stream there was a lot of energy, and a lot of people who were really inspired by it. A lot of people that were inspired by your speech in particular. I think the fact that you hit on so many different angles in your speech, and I think that's really important when people when you have events like this, that you get so many different perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to kind of follow up with that too, and say that that you definitely inspired me too, and made me just super proud to know you and have you part of our group, because I was like, damn, look at her out there, it made me feel like, you got to get yourself out. You got to do something like that. What's wrong with you? But yeah, that was just That was just, I was very, it made me feel proud to be a woman and proud to see women out there doing this, you know?
Yes. Yeah. And that's how I felt watching all of these. And that's why I'm like, I need to be a part of this, because I mean, I work, you know, like it's woke here and I work in a super woke place. And so it's like coming back to, I mean, there was a time of about 3 months where just coming back and listening to Kelly J's stream was basically what kept me sane, because that was the only sanity coming into my life. And so that's how I got connected to all these other channels. And there's a YouTuber I contact every now and then because he's a real sweetheart. And he said, you know, I mentioned I was speaking in the Tacoma event. And he said something like, you know, it's really something when you get out there and you're in it, you know. And I wasn't sure if he was referring to like meeting the women or the protesters, because I was like, you know, it was the same for both. Like, you know, there's the protesters, and honestly I was like, I didn't, like I said before, I was really just kind of unfazed by the protesters, which is weird. But it was just kind of all the same chants you hear online, and you know, the trans women are women, and go home turfs, no turfs on our turfs, the usual shit. And but it's, I mean, not to downplay it, I don't want to downplay it at all, because it was very intimidating, but, and obviously there was danger, but I just, the thing that was more prominent was us women getting together, and these men, you know, that were there, and just being able to be together and meet up and speak, because this is the first time I've been able to connect with TERFs in Seattle, because it's so hard to find them. Like, you know, that's the other reason like we needed this, was just a way to hook up and, you know, get a network going with more people and more support. Because yeah, so I mean, the love from the woman was just amazing. I mean, like when you can't see it, but when I got done with my speech and I was crying, there at least 5 women came up and gave me a hug. And one woman came up to me and she put her hand on my back and looked just directly in my eyes. She was wearing sunglasses, but it was like she was looking into my soul, and she said, "I'm a survivor too." And she asked if it was okay to keep her hand on my back, and I said yeah, but I was feeling a bit nauseous from crying and the speech and the shock and everything, and and so I asked if it was okay if I held her hand, and so she let me just hold her hand until I was done crying, and you know, was ready to let go. So I mean, we aren't these fucking evil women that people paint us out to be. It's just exhausting, you know, going on Twitter and saying that. And I know it's Twitter, but you know, it's like, I started on Twitter like 2 days before this event, and so it was like I found a really positive part of Twitter, because I was searching for a specific group of people, you know. And so it was kind of funny, but then I would be like, okay, oh my god, I need to get off Twitter. But you get off Twitter and then it's just like I go to work and I'm like, oh my god, this is real life. Like, you know, there is no escaping it. And that's another reason you have to speak up, because it's like the internet has become real life, and real life is the internet. And so it's not just on Twitter anymore. Like, a woman got her hand fucking crushed by a kid, a poor kid, and this is serious, and we can't speak up, and we are blamed for it, and it's serious. So yeah.
And I'm glad you got that positive support from all the people,
Oh, yeah.
the women there, because I actually remember in the live chat, one of the live feeds, someone said at the end, "Oh, please, someone give the speaker a hug."
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did kind of run through the comments a bit, and I noticed a bunch of disabled women speaking up, which I've not seen anywhere before. And that made me really proud, because that's what I'm going to focus on with my next speech, is the disability aspect, because it is so rank in there. Just, I mean, I could go on for hours. It's horrendous. And it's like, especially when you're with a disability and you're so isolated already and you need support, and then you go online to seek it and you're just shut down and kicked out, and or you know, excommunicated, like I said. I mean, it sounds dramatic, but that's what happens. Like, you know, it's so, you know, I mean, being disabled just adds a whole nother element into it, you know. And so it was also a woman who spoke at the school board. She said something like, you know, they were telling us to go home and these were the chants they were saying, and I live here, and like, you know, if your students had said that to a disabled kid or a disabled person, would you stand for it? And and Amy said it afterwards because they were live streaming it, and he was like, we had disabled people there, and it's like, exactly, they were telling me as a woman, as a bisexual, as a disabled person, to go home. Like, these, I mean, that is one thing I really want to get straight is, yes, we are angry and both sides are angry, but us women, when we speak and when we're there, we are not filled with hate, and that is the difference. We are not fueled by this rage of, you know, just, I mean, I don't know what to call it. I mean, we're fueled by rage, but it's just not hate filled, or fueled by hate. And that, I think, is an important distinction to make, because it's okay to be angry and it's okay to be enraged, because this is fucking bullshit and we are having our rights taken away and shut down, and we need to be angry. So yeah, you know, don't be afraid to be angry. It's fine. Just, you know, use your voice. Like I said, my speech, that is what I feel is going to get us the furthest, you know.
Man, I can't wait to your next speech.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
And for those of you listening or watching who haven't heard Goth Grrl's speech, or maybe have heard it and want to review it, there are lots of live feeds you can watch the recording of on YouTube. I think WLRN's recording is the best audio quality. And also, we will, if we haven't already by the time this airs, post a transcript of her speech on our website. So do check that out.
And there will definitely be more coming for me too. So don't, you know, keep an eye on me.
Good.
Well, it's good to end on that note of female solidarity and the strength that you found with the other women there. It's a really beautiful story, past all of the hardship that y'all got there, but to be there, to face that crowd and to have no fear. That's a beautiful thing that solidarity and sisterhood was able to manifest for everybody that was there. So that's a beautiful, that's just a beautiful thing. I'm like, I feel
absolutely
a little bit emotional.
No, I feel, I always kind of thought sisterhood kind of sounded cheesy and I didn't like to use it, but you know, after being a part of these groups and, you know, knowing these women are just even like seeing the same face, or you know, quote unquote faces show up in the live chats, like it's solidarity, it's solidarity, like you said, it's sisterhood, it's something that men will never understand. In a way that, I mean, it's different, like so it's you know, it was good to have that. Definitely, I agree.
Thank you for speaking with us today too.
Of course, thank you for
great.
having me.
Yes.
Yeah, we appreciate your time and look forward to having more conversations about the disability aspects. I think it's really important that we really start leaning in and talking about this more and more. So thank you so much for your time, Goth Grrl.
Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it.